great.
Call this meeting to order. Those in attendance, please rise. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues to this regularly scheduled February 7th, 2022 City Council meeting. I don't see a preacher in the audience tonight, so we'll ask the good Lord for prudence and wisdom and guidance and patience and all that good stuff. As you come in, there'll be a door, if you come in that door, which would be to my right, to your left, there's a sign-in sheet. If you're a guest with us tonight, please sign in so we know you were present. City Clerk, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilperson Soha, Reiner,
Here.
Beer,
Here.
Morrissey,
Here.
Sharp,
Here.
Stuchel,
Here.
Pratt, here, Sizer, and Mayor Stockford.
Here.
We have 7 present, Mayor.
Thank you, Katie. Both Councilman Soha and Councilman Zizer contacted me earlier and will be unable to make it tonight, so they will be absent. We'll move into approval of agenda. City Manager or any members of council have any changes to make to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Briner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, we have an agenda. We'll move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And please ensure, if you're speaking at this particular public comment section, that you're commenting on something that is directly tied to something that's present on the agenda. Podium is now open.
Penny Swan, Ward 4. I'm speaking on the TIF appointment of David Hamilton. I've known Dave for a few years now. He has served in the military and is a very conservative, constitutional gentleman. I believe David Hamilton will make an excellent TIF board member. He has been very active in the community and works very hard for the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we will close the podium and move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city and BPU claims of January 6th, payroll of January 6th, city council minutes of January 18th, library minutes of December 16th, airport advisory committee minutes of January 21st, and operations and governance committee unborn sanctuary information. Is there any discussion on any of the items in the consent agenda? Councilman
Yes,
Stuchel?
I'd just like to make a comment on the governance. First, I'd like to just echo my wife's letter that's in here and just thank the OG committee for their time and effort on this. Definitely like to thank Tony Beer for bringing this ordinance forward. Also would like to thank Tony's dad, Dr. Beer, who's been proactively fighting this fight for 50 years now. And I want to thank all of the people, the 400-some people who signed the petition who brought this in front of council. This fight is not over, it's going on. And just a little update, there are some lawyers here in the state of Michigan who are recrafting this ordinance that will better fit Michigan legislature. So I'm pretty frightened about that. And I just want to share something. I had this was written on my desk when I came in here. This is from a gentleman from Canada asking us to keep the fight up. And he gave me a $100 check for Right to Life for Hillsdale. So I'll get this to your dad. But so people are listening, people are paying attention. And I just want to thank all those who are fighting for right to life. And we got to remember, it may be said, that we were not silent when the innocent needed us. So the fight continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Any more information or comments regarding things in the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Briner,
Yes.
Beer,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Sucho,
Yes.
Pratt. Yes. And Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
All approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into communications petitions. Item A, communications petitions, is Hillsdale County Senior Center Annual Report. And Ms. Beer is here tonight.
Good
So,
evening,
Hello, Terry.
and thank you for allowing me a little time. I haven't been around as other center staff have not been around to the townships and the villages and the cities. Always the favorite part of my job. I am Terry Beer, Executive Director for the center, and so I laid purple folders, it's our official color, on your place before you. I'm not going to go through everything in the purple folder, but a couple things that I'd like to draw your attention to. The first, inside your left, I gotta get my left and right, is a sheet, and this is a sheet on specific individuals served in the city of Hillsdale. And in the city of Hillsdale, out of 2,955 total households, the city of Hillsdale has 20.22, or 597 of those households, someone is living alone 60 years of age or older. And the population in the 2020 census was 8,036 total individuals in the city of Hillsdale, and out of that population, 1,565 are 60 years of age or older. So this sheet, when I go around to the townships and the cities, you obviously want to know what constituents, what we're doing for your constituents. And so there is a cheat sheet behind it. I won't go through ADC means adult daycare, but you do have a cheat sheet behind it to explain what all those individual programs. We have about 30 different programs. Some of them are smaller, like our equipment loan library, but some are very large, like our Meals on Wheels and our fitness center, which has been growing. And if you were to go to the bottom of the 315 unduplicated individuals that we've served in the city of Hillsdale and added up all those numbers, you come up with a lot more than 315. And that's because some people who are in Meals on Wheels also get our home-based services. They might get our volunteer transportation. The most popular programs, and this is our fiscal year of 2021, which begins 10/1 of 2020 and goes through 9/30 of 2021. That's how our fiscal year operates. The most popular were, not surprisingly, our Meals on Wheels program, which had 129 unduplicated individuals, and our outreach. And our outreach had 153. And a lot of that outreach was the wellness calls we've done during the pandemic and when we had to shut down. It's been a struggle, and I don't need to tell any of you here, the last 2 years have been a challenge on who's on first and who's on second, and our top priority was always to keep our clients and our staff safe. We have approximately 44 staff individuals, and included in your packet is also the total number of individuals that we served for fiscal year 21, and that's throughout the entire Hillsdale County, of 1,892 unduplicated individuals, and providing 108,581.25 units of service. A unit of service could be 15 minutes on the phone, it could be a meal, it could be a one-way ride for transportation. Our whole mission has been to keep people at home, independent, healthy, and involved in the community. And to keep them at home saves taxpayers money. Because if they were to go into an institutional setting, which we don't like to see, more than not, they're paid through Medicaid, and we all help in paying that. So keeping them home where they're happier also adds to the overall economic of the city of Hillsdale, because they're still buying locally, they're still using those local resources. For the first time in the 32 years I've been executive director, this past year we had to institute a waiting list for home-based services. And it breaks my heart because it's that personal care, it's going to the grocery store, it might be helping them keep their house clean. And it's not because of funding, it's because, like many businesses, we have a challenge hiring the staff. Recently, we became part of LARA, and are doing a registered apprenticeship program, which is hopefully going to encourage and reward those individuals who decide to become a direct care support worker. And so we're looking forward to establishing that program that raises the bar, so to speak, on the qualifications and the training that they get for going into the home. But as I said, I've never had a waiting list in the 32 years, and I think we now have about 70 on our waiting list for home-based services. Meals on Wheels has no waiting list, and I thank all of you who voted yes for the senior millage, because once the grant, state and federal funding runs out, it is that senior millage funding that allows us to continue our operations. We have a budget of about $2.4 million, and over half of that money comes from countywide voter-approved senior millage. So I do appreciate all of you for your support to the center. As I said, I'm not going to go through everything in the packet, but certainly there is a wealth of information there. We obviously have modified. One of the things that we are going to continue is our curbside pickup for meals, because people like it, and then they can just swing by and pick up instead of having to come in for our congregate lunch. We were able to open our Adult Day Respite Center in July. It was shut down for more than a year, and that's our on-site respite care, which helps those individuals who have loved ones who need that 24/7 care, and the caregiver needs a break. We have not reopened our overnight emergency respite program. We're hoping to do that by this summer, but that is where we take care of individuals up to 13 days. So I'm a son or daughter's taking care of mom or dad. They want to go to their son's wedding, or they want to just take a vacation, they can bring mom and dad over, and we will provide that care. We have both private pay and scholarship programs for that. But we're all getting older. I started there, I was just a kid, and now I'm a senior. So I could appreciate a lot of these programs that we're able to offer. One of the big things about going out to the villages and townships and cities is to ask if you've heard anything from your constituents, or you have questions about the programs that we provide or the services that we do. And just again, to say thank you and share the information with you. And so if you have a senior that lives next door to you, or maybe you're a senior and aren't aware of our services, certainly look through the information that we have.
Thank you, Terry. Before
Thank
we
you.
get to any questions, I wanted to say a couple things. Some of these numbers in here are astounding. 22%, that's pretty incredible. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but I just became aware a couple days ago that this past year was the first year ever in the state of Michigan, in our entire history, that the rate of deaths outpaced the rate of births. First time it's ever happened in history. That was true for the entire state of Michigan. That was also true for Hillsdale County. Now, hopefully, that's not a trend that continues. But I think it really does highlight that this is very much an aging community, and the state's very much an aging state. So we really appreciate what you do. The other thing is, another thing I don't know if you guys all know, but this year is the 50th anniversary of the legislation that brought programs like Meals to Wheels into effect. So I don't know, I'm gonna ask you tonight, I don't know if you guys have an answer yet, but are you guys gonna do the ride-alongs in March?
Yeah, we are doing, well, as far as we know so far, Sam is our marketing communications.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, so we're doing a couple cool things for March. It's always to raise awareness on Meals on Wheels, and we've had the ride-alongs. Obviously, we had to suspend them, but we've tapped some of your shoulders. I think Ray's delivered meals for us before. And then we also are doing a sponsorship. So every day in March, we have a different business or individual sponsoring a day for $100 to raise money to go back into our Meals on Wheels. And some of you may have had our caramel popcorn and our dog biscuits, but we are planning to bring those back because they're popular, and they're a fundraiser for us where the proceeds go back into Meals on Wheels. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Because I know you're on the list, Adam.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, I am. Is there any questions while we have Terry here? Councilman Brenner.
Talking about Meals on Wheels, you're correct, I did do those a lot through the Exchange Club, and as far as bringing back volunteers, is there any timeline as far?
Well, I'm gonna tell Jerry tomorrow that you're ready, right?
Okay, well, I didn't know if there was,
Yeah.
you know, through the Exchange Club.
Kiwanis has started, I think Kiwanis has started back Sam, is that correct? Yeah,
Okay.
Kiwanis has started back.
Alright.
And we just started back probably within the last, 3 months, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Like, so, little by little, we're trying to get back to the new normal,
Cause I think we usually did Tuesdays and we did a
Yeah.
route for you.
the local routes.
Yep.
Yeah, without our volunteers, we wouldn't be able to survive, and it was hard the last couple. So.
I'm sure.
Any more questions for Ms. Veer?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate your time. Okay, we'll move on in communications petitions to item B, Junior Achievement Crazy Bowl sponsorship information. Well, this is a letter to you, Dave. Is there anything you wanna say about this, or?
It was just a generic letter that came to the city, looking for sponsorships for their Crazy Bowl, which is later this month. If anyone is interested in that, if you reach out to my office, I can get you in contact, where you can see the information on the communication.
Okay. Item C, 2021 Tree City USA Award. There's an email in here. Looks like we applied for the award. Is that
Yes,
right?
We received it again.
We received it again. So we're Tree City USA. That's something we deserve. Right, Jake? Jake knows all about the trees. Item D is a tentative equalization ratios and estimated SED multipliers email. Yeah, I'm not gonna read so much about this, it's in the packet. Item E is our 2022 Spring City Newsletter, which all our residents should get in their Board of Public Utilities bill. Lots of good information in there. Any discussion on any of the items in communications petitions? Seeing no discussion, we will move on. We've got no introduction, adoption of ordinances. We've got no old business, so we will move into new business. Item A, budget amendments for fiscal year 2022 budget. And I believe we have our finance director here tonight.
Hi there. I'm Karen Lancaster. I had the pleasure of joining you virtually in November for the first quarter's financial statements, and so I get to be here tonight in person. So I am your interim finance director. I'm here tonight for two different items. The first one is budget amendments. So budget amendments are required under state law anytime we are going off in a new direction with something. For example, ARPA funds, the money came in, we approved some different contracts to spend that money, and we need to adopt a budget because it's a special revenue fund. Those are all good reasons. Sometimes we have budget amendments because we receive a grant. Sometimes we have budget amendments because something costs more than we thought it was going to cost. So in the resolution, the formal action, we just summarized at a level of the fund level or the department level. That's all that's required by the state. But there is an additional handout for those that are interested. There was an attachment that explains why we go over for each additional thing. So for example, in the general fund, we received a grant from MISTA, and then we have expenditures for that grant. So that's an expenditure and a revenue approval for those things. We also have engineering services didn't have a budget in the general fund for this year. My guess is it was just overlooked in the haste of trying to put together a budget and also deal with the pandemic and all the things that were happening last year. So that's to establish a budget for the time that the city engineer spends on general fund activities. Her time is normally charged out to all the different funds for her activities. And then the American Rescue Plan Act has its own fund. We are setting a budget for the revenue we received for this year, which is only half of the revenue that we're going to receive, and as well as establishing an expenditure budget for the items that the council has already seen and approved. The leaf collector, the Westwood Ave engineering services for both Manic and with Tetra Tech. And then the bond and interest redemption fund, so that was where we had levied taxes for that fund. That fund now has gone away. We don't levy taxes for it anymore. We're moving money to the capital improvements fund, which is where all expenditures are. So we're making that balance out. So I need to send the money from 362 to the capital projects fund, which is 401 on the next page. And then the last item is, an item that the council didn't see this one. Fuel equipment for ag fuel was a $6,000 purchase that was not planned for. So we have a budget adjustment for that. Any questions about budget adjustments or why we do them? Why it matters, anything?
Okay, well, thank you, Karen. Any questions at all for Karen? Entertain a motion to approve these budget adjustments.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Briner, seconded by Councilman Beer. Can I please have a roll call vote, city clerk?
Beer,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
and Councilperson Briner.
Yes.
7-0 approved, that's resolution 3488.
3488.
Correct.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move on to item B in new business, financial reports for quarter ending 12/31/21. Karen?
All right, I'm still here. So what is happening with this report? So I put a nice summary together, hopefully you consider it nice, of things that I wanna highlight, rather than you having to pour through a 34-page report of a balance sheet and 62 pages of revenues and expenditures. So what I'd like to highlight are things that halfway through the year, 50% through the year, are not at 50% or under, right? So why do these things happen? So as I'm sure you're aware, things like tax revenue all come in early, so anything that's tax-driven revenue will come in higher than 50% at this point through the year. So really the items of concern that I want to point out and that we're going to either monitor or that you've just approved a budget amendment for are highlighted in my memo. So the number one thing under general fund is cemeteries. Cemeteries is at 65% of its budget at this point through the year, so that's gonna need to be monitored to make sure we don't continue to spend equally as much in these last 2 quarters of the year. Otherwise, we'll need a budget amendment. The same thing, airports at 67% of its budget, but we did find an expenditure after some research that didn't belong there, and it actually belongs to the airport improvement fund. So we're gonna see that fix itself, which is good news. Planning is at 79% of its expenditure budget, primarily due to that MSHDA grant that you just approved. So because we approved that budget amendment, we'll see that number go down, and that will remedy itself. Engineering services had lots of expenditures, but no budget, and we just fixed that with the prior item. And then parks is at 65% of its budget, primarily due to seasonality, but we do have to watch to make sure that we're not gonna have any overages when we start firing up the parks in April and May. For non-general funds, some of the items here, so in the non-general fund areas, you only as a council have to approve things where the entire fund goes over budget. In the general fund, you have to look at things where the department's over budget. So that's why we don't see as much detail on these non-general funds. And for these things, about the only thing I'm really concerned about is not so much where the revenue is over, it's where the expenditures are over. So again, Recreation Fund 208, it's at 61% of its budget. We want to continue to monitor that, and hopefully that's just due to seasonality of recreation activities. We have the timing of some, in the TIFA fund, we have some timing because of the Dawn Theater grant construction. So that should be paring down, and we won't have those same expenditures in the next 2 quarters. The ARPA grant we talked about, also the bond interest exemption fund and capital improvements we talked about. So we get down to Stocks Park, again, a seasonality thing, and airport improvement fund will probably be back on the 3rd quarter for a budget adjustment because fuel sales have increased because fuel has increased so much and the expenditures have gone up. So both together, we're gonna see that come back to the council for a budget adjustment. And then we have a couple equipment inventory funds that are running high, and we will probably bring back an adjustment to the council for the 3rd quarter for those items. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, we just sold some land. I don't know if the contract's been signed and got money yet, but it was like $700 some odd thousand, I believe.
Oh.
150. So that's going into the general fund, correct?
Was that general fund purchase land? Yeah. well then, yes, it will, they will go there.
So
So-
that'll be a surplus.
Yeah, so what will happen is that would be an unbudgeted revenue, which is completely fine, and it just falls to fund balance at June 30th when we do our audit. If the council wanted to spend that money on something, I would come back with a budget amendment and we would do an appropriation for whatever amount of that $750 you wanted to use.
Well, currently at this time, we're happy we got something sold, we'll just see
That's a
where-
wonderful bolster to the
and
general
it's a good
fund.
start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful bolster.
You don't wanna do a fact-finding trip to like
No,
Hawaii or something, Bruce?
no,
No? Vernon?
Vote for raises.
yeah, no.
Ray wants more than $100 a month to sit up here. You greedy son of a gun, Ray. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time tonight.
Sure.
It's nice to put a face with you though this time, we actually get to see somebody.
I have another
Cause that
voice.
office has been empty for a while, and we just kinda, who are we talking with, or where is?
I am so happy to be here, thank you. I'll just remind the council before I go that we are in the midst of the 22-23 budget preparation. So, department heads are working on that right now, and, Dave and I will be working on his recommended budget in the month of March, and that will come to the council for the first meeting of April. And then we'll, have a month or two to review and go through it, and then, for approval in the first meeting of June, I believe. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on in new business. We've got item C and D are both just setting public hearings for special assessment districts. So the first one is for Uran Street, which is in the industrial park. Looks like the estimated cost for the project is $320,000, with $284,300 being paid by the city and $35,700 being assessed to the property owners, which there are no residential property owners on Uran Street. They're all factories, industrial properties. So,
And then, Mayor, it's also important to note that we did receive a $99,000 grant for this, so actually our share will be less than $99,000 we'll be receiving for that.
wonderful. Did you have any more information, Dave, or?
No.
Okay, so it looks like, the public hearing will be, if we set it, the public hearing will be at our next council meeting, February 21st, 2022. Councilman Beer?
I had just a question on the 35,700 being assessed to property owners. I just, and of course, we can go up to 5,000 per parcel. How many parcels does that affect?
Jake, do you happen to know the answer to that?
Well, I'm gonna guess if you divide that by 5,000, it gets you pretty darn close. There's not that many parcels on that section.
Well, I know if you do 5,000, you got 7, and then you got that 700, that's
Yeah,
kind of what it was.
Probably 8.
8.
Yeah, I don't know the number. Probably 8 parcels.
Okay.
That's Uran Street, so, we also have a business that's announced they're closed, or has closed.
Well, Metalist was over there on Uran Street, they closed.
The window place.
I thought that was on industrial.
Well, Kitty Corner City, yep.
And I think Uran Street's got Cobra Moto on it, right?
Not this section.
No.
No?
No, this is from industrial out to, or, this would be all the Dow Chemical frontage, the old Hillsdale
Okay.
Tool,
The old Hillsdale Tool,
Clark Electric.
Yeah, and then
PCs.
our new distillery is going out there too.
I think you're right.
And he's gonna have a tasting room, so we definitely want that road in good shape.
Booze Days.
He's gonna have some business. Okay. Any more discussion on this item? Motion to set the public hearing date for February 21st.
So move forward.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, one down, one to go. Find it. Second one is for Special Assessment District 2206, which would be Maury Street East and West Linwood Boulevard and South Howell Street. So this is some residential and some commercial, sounds like,
Just residential,
just residential?
besides the hospital.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant.
That's a critical stretch right there too.
Oh, it is, I get complaints about it all the time. I get all sorts of, fix the road in front of the hospital.
Well, let's make sure they get all the information they need.
I drive on the wrong side of the road when I go down that road.
And it does, one of the other issues is it does flood there, particularly in the Maury Street and Howell area. It floods all the way across the road. And that's
Just past where the old Dr. Herber's office was, there's always flooding there. So,
Looks like the total estimate is $1,080,000, with $802,700 being the city share and $277,300 being property owner's share if they so want their street fixed using the special assessment process.
which can be no more of the same thing, $5,000, or depending on how many properties there are on it, could be less, like we did over here on these other projects. So we wanna make sure people understand that. Don't we hear that $200,000 are gonna have a heart attack, they think, oh my God, sell the house. But no, it's just, but maximum we can do is 5,000.
I mean, we always knew it was gonna be we always knew we were gonna have to use a plethora of funding options to do the streets in Hillsdale.
But we need to
We're
know.
never gonna find something that was gonna be a one-size-fits-all and fix all the streets. So, not crazy about this but it's,
Getting the job done.
yeah, it's much better than, say, a uniform city income tax or something like that. Councilman Rear.
Do you know what the mileage on that assessment district would be? The number of mile or portion of a mile that represents?
Any idea, Dave, Jake?
Can't hit me with the questions I'm not prepared for. Linwood's a pretty long stretch, you know.
Yes.
That goes all the way to
Reading
Reading?
all the way Reading Avenue.
Okay.
There's a pretty long piece there, combined with the other blocks there. Howell's not huge, but that's pretty decent, that's probably a quarter mile.
Linwood, yeah.
City limits down to Hallett, probably a quarter mile, I'm guessing
Oh.
Linwood's
Okay.
over half a mile.
So the estimates we've always gotten, Jake, are $1 million a mile. It's a pretty close estimate for what it was gonna cost. And this is about $1 million, so we guessed probably about a mile worth.
Yeah, you're in the ballpark, but keep in mind, things like Garden Mead Vine was only 3/4 of a mile, and that was over 2 million, because that had full infrastructure, culvert, so yeah, you're in that 1 to 2 plus.
You have to bring that up.
Well, cost comparison.
I know,
That project would have cost the same no matter who did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
It's functioning infrastructure too, but yeah.
Okay, so any discussion on this, guys, or you wanna set the public hearing for the same night as year end, February 21st?
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Morrissey, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and at our next council meeting, we will have, public hearings for those two special assessment districts. So let's get our information out to the residents of those districts, so they know what's going on, and we can get a move on it. Okay, we'll move into item E in new business, bid for unmarked police department fleet vehicle. Chief?
This bid was to replace our 2010 Chevy Impala that is unmarked and utilized by our detective. A little history, we have our unmarked vehicle on a 10-year rotation. It is now 12 years old. It was on a 10-year, put into the budget. If you remember the 2020-21 budget, you were given a couple of budget options. The option or budget that you guys approved did not include the purchase of any vehicles for the police department that year. Next budget year, 21-22 that we're in now, we're able to budget out of capital, one police marked vehicle, police interceptor. However, if we were going to replace the detective's vehicle, it was gonna have to come from the fire department, and public safety equipment, vehicle, and capital fund. The Public Safety Committee approved that. We did go out for bid the end of last summer for a replacement vehicle and got no bids at all. We had to reassess what we were trying to bid, what kind of vehicles were gonna be available for us, and what we thought we could get by potentially for another 10 years. What's out there is a lot of small vehicles with small motors, small suspensions. Last thing I wanted, I guess the fear for me was that I would be standing here in another 3 to 4 years and saying this car didn't work out or vehicle didn't work for us. We know what does work for us, and that's currently what we've been buying. So we went out for bid for a 22 Ford Explorer 4x4. This is not a police interceptor, and it's not the civilian model, it's Ford's fleet version. So it met all our standards. We definitely know how many years we get out of those type of vehicles. Every Ford Explorer the police department has purchased is still in service in some department in the city of Hillsdale. So that should attest a little bit that we're buying the right vehicles for our use. So we did publish a bid. The bid opening was, I believe, January 25th. We only received one bid. That was from Ken Stillwell Ford in the amount of $29,953.40. And that, again, was approved by the Public Safety Committee after we received this bid. So this goes before you with a recommendation to accept this bid and authorize Ford to purchase this vehicle. Again, not knowing if we can even get it this year once we order it. We've had reoccurring problems with the 2010 Chevy Malibu. It's still in service, we're still using it, but you know, we'd like to get our vehicles replaced before they go into catastrophic failure.
Sounds great, Chief. Any questions for the Chief?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Briner to accept the bid and authorize the purchase of the unmarked fleet vehicle. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilmember Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Kraft,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Briner,
Yes.
and Beer.
Yes.
7-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Chief. Okay, we'll move into miscellaneous reports. We've got no proclamations. I added one appointment to the agenda. I would like to very briefly read the email that I sent council, just so we are very transparent about this. Since I guess I haven't been good about communicating things, apparently I haven't been, because there's been enough controversy with this appointment. So I'd like to read this just for reasons of transparency and so the public understands that nobody's being singled out or picked on. There's a method to how I would like to move forward with council's permission. To prevent a repeat of our previous appointment, I want to fill you in on my plans moving forward with the TIFA board. We've got 4 strong applications in currently. That's Mr. Hamilton, who's here tonight, who owns 2 buildings, well actually 4 buildings downtown, 2 buildings in the TIFA district. And those are the buildings that Ed Zoll owned on Howell Street. David's also he's a veteran, he's one of the head people at the American Legion. He organizes their 5Ks. He is on the Key Opportunities Board as well. I'm sure you guys saw his application. It's a very impressive resume. He's a good man. Kevin Koenig put an application in, who owns the Pub and Grub and who owns Lola Lou's and who has an interest in the brewery. Jason Walters put an application in, who owns Local Eatery. And Felicia Finch, who owns the brewery, put an application in. Monique Sarles has also expressed an interest, and she owns the Birdies on Howell that used to be the Hallmark gift shop. She hasn't put an application in yet, excuse me, but she has expressed an interest and told me she was going to put one in. So I know she's busy, I'm sure she'll get around to it. So those are the orders that I plan on appointing people. I want to end the practice of representatives of organizations on the board that don't have a business in the TIFA district. So as those appointments go up, I wanna replace those people. We'll keep our council rep on the board. Councilman Stuchel has said that he would, like to continue serving, so either in March or April, Councilman Stuchel's first term would be up, we will reappoint him, as council's representative on the board. Now the college, they have a representative on the TIFA board right now, and they typically have, but they didn't own downtown property. Well, now they do, they bought the current Office Solutions building. And ironically enough, this wasn't planned by any means, but ironically enough, the head of the department who is of the department that's going into that building is Mary Margaret Spiteri, who's already on the TIFA board. So we'll keep Mary as a representative of the college if she wants to continue serving. And I wouldn't replace a representative from the college on the TIFA board because I want to comprise that board of people that own businesses downtown and have a vested interest in the downtown and whose tax dollars are going into the TIFA fund. But since the college bought property downtown, then I'm cool with them being entitled to a representative on that board. I'm sorry about the confusion with Mary. I will say right now, when I made that appointment, I already had applications in. I already had interested business owners. I was asked by people that I respect and appreciate to add Mary to see the Dawn Project through, and I initially said no, and then I got some pressure, and then like I said, I wanted to show the TIFA board that I respected them. I wanted to show Mary that I think that she has talent. I wanted to show the people, specifically Councilman Soha, who actually stepped off the TIFA board and requested that Mary be appointed in his place. So I wanted to show all those people respect. So I compromised and appointed Mary to the board. But when I did, I sat down and talked to her, and I made it clear that the purpose was to see the Dawn Project through. That I wanted to start making that board full of business owners. And here's the other thing, guys. We've got so many business owners downtown Hillsdale that are interested in serving on that board. It's like, let's make some room for them. Let's get those people on the board. You know, their money's going into that fund. So I don't think it's fair to say, well, I've got these people on the board that aren't business owners, that don't own businesses in downtown Hillsdale. But I have people who do own businesses in downtown Hillsdale that are saying, I want to serve on this board. So I think that entitles them to a place on the board more than it does somebody that's an expert in economic development or a representative of some institution that isn't in the TIFA district. That's my feeling. We don't have to agree on that, but that's how I feel. But I really want to get past this idea that I'm removing her from the board. That's not the way I feel about it. The exception was made when she was put on the board, not when she wasn't reappointed to the board. And I appreciate everybody that serves on boards, but I don't know. There's this sense of entitlement with this that is frustrating to me. The commissioners are still asking for a representative on the board, but as long as council is uncomfortable with that, then we won't appoint a commissioner to that board. I'll compromise on that. You guys don't want that, that's fine with me. And the commissioners aren't entitled to a representative on that board either, even though they own property downtown. It doesn't entitle them to being on that board. The only people entitled to anything are the 9 of us sitting up here who are elected and chosen by the residents of this city. That being said, I offered Mary a position on the airport board because I do think she's talented. She hasn't answered me whether or not that's something she wants to do, but she still has an opportunity to put her ambition to work with the city if she wants to, in a growing sector where her expertise would be very useful and where there's a lot of exciting things happening coming up at the airport. We've got some exciting stuff going on at the airport, do we not?
Yes.
We have some big things happening out there, so, you know, I know she's energetic and ambitious, and if she wants to be active, then I'm happy to put her on the airport board, and she can exercise her talents out there, or whatever, run for council, whatever she wants to do. I mean, she can run for my spot. that being said, Mr. Hamilton is here tonight. David, are you interested in telling us anything about your plans for those buildings yet, or is that still a zip mouth thing until you get the, I don't wanna put you in the position, on the spot, but I know you have plans for them, but I don't know if you want those to be public plans yet, and that's up to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm David Hamilton. And I did just post, websites on HowellStreetHoldingsCompany.com and KnowledgeEmporium.net. The holding company is an incubator for businesses to recognize and develop the superhuman talents of people of determination. Knowledge Emporium is our first storefront. It's going to be a homeschool consignment exchange and some other services, educational services, tutoring space, and the information for homeschoolers, teacher supply. There's not another teacher supply from here past Troy. So we're gonna try and put together some things so that teachers in classrooms in the area can come and find material for their blackboards and corkboards. So we're excited to get started with those things. Probably gonna turn the key on that one in May. Looking at getting in the door later this month and starting to set up. So lots of work to do. And I very much appreciate the time and being able to look to Tifa. We're hopefully redeveloping that storefront to make it something that looks like 1910 again. And in that interest, I'm excited to be with the Tifa because there's no reason that street, South Howell Street especially, but Broad Street also, aren't a showcase of the beauty that's here. Not just the architecture, but the people. We have so much to build and so many people waiting and trying to grow and develop into business people, shopkeepers, and we need to build new things on the old that's here and celebrate what's done with new development. So I look forward to Tifa being involved in quality assurance, making sure that up and down these streets it agrees and makes a better place for us all.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Any questions?
I just have one here. On your application, it says, I'm honored to have been requested to apply for the TIF board. Who asked you?
Lance did.
I believe what we're doing, I don't disagree with your premise, but it's unprecedented. We've never taken anybody off TIF board. And to take Mary Wolfman, even though she doesn't own the property downtown, this is not to get you, Mr. Hamilton. Nobody has brought in the money that Mary has. Nobody. Millions of dollars. We have a rough draft sitting right here that's a huge success. The Dawn Theater is all lit up like a Christmas tree now, which is gonna have its grand opening next week. And we have the Kiefer, it's all lit up, construction going on. It's unprecedented, Mayor.
I understand that.
I understand why you wanna do this, and I don't disagree with that, but it's unprecedented to take somebody off of Tifa that wants to serve on Tifa. The time will come when you slowly can replace everybody with business owners, and I agree with that. I being one myself. I mean, people have real skin in the game. And I don't wanna bring up a bad memory, but I'm going to. And Mr. Lashway went to David, that concerns me. But Mr. Lashway took a fine piece of property downtown Hillsdale and turned it into a flop house, an eyesore, a safety issue. That concerns me a lot. We're trying to have that business moved out of there. And he was your last appointment that you requested, and this council rubber stamped it because it's the mayor's request. We didn't vet Mr. Lashway, and this is what we have. Downtown Hillsdale, this is what we have.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. Look, Lance
The time will come.
got 5 or 6 businesses downtown. Those are a lot of businesses in our downtown. And I know that Mary brought money into this community, millions, while she was being paid as an economic development director for the city. She was paid for that. She had the job, she was a council person, she was economic development person, she was a paid consultant on Tifa. I should have never appointed her, because I feel like no good deed goes unpunished, because I should have just stuck to my guns and said, no, I don't want to do that, because that's not how I feel about it. And I'm the mayor, I don't have a lot of power, I'm a vote on council. This is the one little thing that I get to oversee is appointments, so, you know, and I know, and you don't have to,
And all I'm saying is, it's unprecedented. I think you wait until somebody steps off. We've never done this before. It's unprecedented.
Okay. I understand your concerns, I do, and I'm not saying that I'm right and you're wrong, I'm not gonna
I
sit
don't
up here and say
disagree with
that.
your logic. I don't disagree with the logic. I think and that will happen over time. It will happen.
I
We don't need to push it.
wanna be clear that when I added a council representative, yourself, onto the Tifa board, I heard all these same things, Greg. This is unprecedented. We don't need a council member on Tifa. We can handle our own stuff. We don't. And it's worked out okay. I know everything hasn't always worked out okay. I understand. But,
She can still be on the Tifa board,
Yeah,
just not a voting member.
she can still be on the Dawn Governance Committee. I feel like she's acting like an entitled brat that's kicking her feet because
That's very professional. Make sure that's very unprofessional.
you know what? She wants to sabotage the appointment process and encourage people to, basically hold the Tifa board hostage and not approve any new appointments until,
I don't believe Ms.
I know for a fact that she's doing that, for a fact.
Okay.
That she's encouraging council members to not approve appointments because the law says that she can continue to serve if nobody is appointed in her place. Those are Washington DC and Lansing games being played with Hillsdale boards, and
I
I
don't
don't
need
appreciate
the
that.
election, sir. Okay, what you just said, and everything about Mary was very unprofessional. She's done an outstanding job, so that's where I'm going to leave it.
So let's vote.
Councilman
Councilman
Social, if I may, I bought buildings with the intent of mixed use. I have yet to arrive at what I'm going to do for the housing that's going in the upper stories of those buildings. God forbid anybody sit in council and call them a flop house, no matter what it is.
Okay.
Sir, I appreciate what you're
We
doing.
already see what we have.
And
We
I
don't need more
appreciate,
of that.
excuse me, I appreciate the relationship you have with Mr. Lashaway. And I assure you that the intent of the state law that says that I have to put lower income housing in those buildings in order to appreciate funding, the intent is answered in ways that are uncomfortable for some of us. I guarantee you nobody's more uncomfortable than the men that are standing looking for a place to smoke a cigarette and they have a fishbowl.
There's many places we can do that, not downtown Hillsdale. We don't need it downtown Hillsdale.
Guarantee you, nobody is more upset about that than those young men that are trying to get their lives right.
Please.
And I appreciate, my daughters walk by that building, so I'm concerned, like many other residents here. Those are men, and they're recovering. They're in a situation where they're being encouraged to do well. And it is far from what the Kiefer House used to be. It's a whole long way away.
And so, with that, it sounds like we can have more of the same. Mr. Lashley's bringing in the downtown Hillsdale, and that's what you're voting for. We have a boutique motel being raised from the dead, $12 million. Beautiful broad-down hotel. Downtown Hillsdale could be blowing, just could be on fire, which is great revenue. Or we can go with these kind of businesses. It's your vote, like Bruce said.
Is education such a backwater,
You were talking about.
objectionable thing? Is housing for students objectionable to you? For Hillsdale College students, sir. Nice t-shirt, nice
We're not
sweatshirt.
talking the same thing, but your answer, no, it's not.
You don't care for mixed-use buildings?
I'm not gonna debate this with you, sir.
I'm
I just.
honestly
explained
concerned.
What you're gonna bring, what you could possibly bring in our downtown. That's what you just said. I'm just telling council, just to consider that when you vote. That's it. There's no debate. We don't debate this.
It's fine, your presumption is noted, sir. My home, by the way, is 67 South Howell Street, and I'll invite anybody to drive by and tell me how much you think that looks like what's being characterized as far as quality, what I intend to do with 12 and 14 South Howell, what I intend to bring to assessment of whether we need to spend millions and millions of dollars renovating the Dawn Theater, or could we get that done for a few $100,000? There's a whole lot of ways to do what we're doing in Hillsdale that tie the college necessarily to the town and don't create rifts between the college and the town. We moved here to be near the college. 4 generations of my family are in this town now because the college is here. Because of the wonderful things that the college has done and the amazing people that are here in this town. And there's a way to tie us together and not drive wedges between us. I hope to do that with Tifa. Thank you.
Councilman Beer.
Mary served on the TIFA board for, it's at like a 2-year, the terms, what is it?
So, Mary served the remainder of Councilman Soha's term.
Okay.
Councilman Soha stepped down and asked for Mary to be appointed in his place.
Okay.
Mary's term was up in July, and instead of appointing somebody else in July, I was asked by the TIFA chair if Mary could continue to sit on the board until the Dawn project was seen through.
Which they're having
To
the open
which-
house February.
Yep, to which I agreed that that was fair assessment. I can't be any more clear that when I sat down with Mary to appoint her to the board, I specified that it was to see the Dawn project through, to see her project through. So, like I said, no good deed goes unpunished. I should have never done it the first. Should have never brought it forward the appointment in the first place. And Councilman Stuccio, I apologize if you felt like you were lecturing. I don't think I'm better than you or smarter than you. And I know that we don't always agree, but we disagree as equals. And I don't want to ever sound like I'm lecturing, because I don't think that I have information that you don't have, or that I'm more intelligent than you, or that I'm a better representative. We just disagree on stuff sometimes. So it's not, most certainly not a thing of disrespect. And I know we're both men that can get a little fiery with you. So I apologize if you felt like I was lecturing you. Councilman.
But going back on the TIFA is a tax collection for the downtown. And I do agree with you, Mayor, that it's, that the fact that it should be the business owners that have the main say in how that money is spent. I agree with that. And also the fact that you brought Mary in to see the Dawn to completion. The Dawn is gonna have an open house on the 19th. It's gonna be completed. This is the last meeting prior to that completion. I guess I would have, not getting all wrapped up emotionally, but the fact that, the county commissioners wanted to be on this, and that was my meeting. Wasn't at the last meeting. And we're not entertaining that, because of the fact that they're not part of the TIFA district. I think that's a very valid point, being part of the TIFA district, being able to vote how those taxes that are specially collected to benefit that district are spent. To have the people in the downtown district have the major say in how those monies are spent. I just, you know, with all the snow that we got, and I just noticed because I'm on the north side of Hillsdale, and you see the county trucks, and last I knew Hillsdale was in the county. When the county comes to the city limits, they lift up their plows, go to the other city limits and drop them with the plow. I don't know what the ramifications of that are, but it seems kind of odd. It seems like they could just leave their plow, because we are part of the county, leave their plows coming through the city, help us out a little bit.
I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah,
That's
I
interesting.
I noticed that, and it's like, it seemed kind of odd, because they aren't technically, you know, city roads not county. Now, maybe it might be something that, as a city, we have worked out, but.
The road you're talking about is M99, correct?
No, no,
Well, M99, we as a city are, we have to do ours in city limits. When the county comes through, they lift and they don't do through the city.
Because they're not getting paid to do ours.
Yeah.
And we're not paying them to do ours.
Yeah, but
That's why.
ultimately, he is right as far as we're in the.
That has to do with who has jurisdiction over the roadway. Some roads are county roads, some roads are township roads, some roads are city roads and or village roads, depending on the municipality. And there's a whole scheme under state law for who has responsibility under the road law of the state of Michigan to maintain each of those. So there's a reason why they don't encroach on someone else's road. It would seem to make sense, you could just plow it as you went through, but unless you have an agreement with that municipality, you're in effect infringing on their turf if you were to plow their street, so that's why they do it.
Same way with like fire departments and everything else.
It also has to do with your Act 51 funding that you get from the state.
Yeah, but I don't really want to get down, because we're talking about the turf. But, I actually have to agree with the mayor on that.
I have another question, Mayor, if I don't mind.
Yes.
Like I said, I don't disagree with that logic either. I just think it's unprofessional what we're doing to Mary. But however, you mentioned 3 other people that have history of business in downtown. I mean, a good long history of downtown. That doesn't, he's just bought these buildings. So why not go with a known business person who has a vested interest, money in the game in downtown Hillsdale? We don't know what we're gonna get. I mean, he's talking about low-income housing, and there's funding out there, there's ways to do that, and what does that do to our downtown? We don't know. But with Kevin, and the other names you listed, we know exactly what we have.
I want to appoint all those people
But why are you starting here? Why don't you start with one of those 3? Why don't you start with a known? I mean, that's why I'm giving you a compromise here. Why don't you start with a known business person in downtown Hillsdale versus someone who just bought buildings downtown Hillsdale?
I asked Kevin too.
I mean, this is not a debate. I'm just asking.
No, sure.
I'm just asking a question. Why don't you start with one of those 3 or 4 that you listed?
That's a relevant question. Honestly, I know Mr. Hamilton personally the best. So, I know what sort of man he is. I know what his priorities are. I know that he's looking to pour a lot of money into our downtown. I know that it's,
He just said what he wanted to do with it. I just can't.
I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to decide who to appoint first. We could flip coins, we could go with.
I'm just going on the last issue we had.
Yeah,
It didn't turn out well. And so I don't have a comfort over here. I'm just being honest with you. As a business owner downtown, I want downtown to thrive. I want good citizens, people walking up down the streets. And I don't know.
I have a bone to pick with what happened about the cell tower. Over here on Fayette Street. No, don't shake your head. She was on the Economic Development Committee at the time, or the person. 2 times she was told to not interfere with the cell tower, and she was out there saying, we don't need it, it's ugly, it's gonna be this and that. And that was a vital service to the city needed, because I have AT&T, and I couldn't use my phone in my house.
It's there, isn't it?
It's there now, but she tried to stop it.
Jeez, you know, you and I disagree on stuff too.
Yeah, we're gonna
So
disagree.
why did you get off council? You shouldn't, because you don't agree with everything I say. That doesn't make any sense.
No, I didn't, no, I'm trying to put it out there what she
We all
tried to do.
disagree on different things. That's a bogus argument.
No,
Let's get
that
back
was,
to
that
this.
was an important thing you needed, and it brings $15,000 to the city every year as revenue. Whatever.
Well, it's a bogus argument.
So we're just gonna tell this gentleman he's not good enough.
No, I'm appointing them. If you guys don't wanna, if you wanna vote against them, vote against them.
Well, I say we vote one way or the other and
I-
do it that way.
Councilman Breider.
I just wanna say my piece and then we can vote. I know Mr. Hamilton, he's a good person, but I also agree with Greg, you know, in the whole situation of things. Mary, you know, she might not be the easiest person to get along with, but she has done good things for the downtown district. We're not all gonna agree, we never will. And, you know, there's some things that I don't like that Craig said, you know, but we're all come together for the better good. You know, I think Mary, like you said, did good things. I also had the question, you know, why don't we, you know, look at who has the business the longest in Hillsdale, you know, and ask them first and then work our way down the list. It's nothing against you, Mr. Hamilton. I like you and think you'll do good things downtown. So that's, you know, kind of my say. There's a lot of headbutting and name calling, and I'm not gonna do any of that. I will never do any of that. But I just wanted to say my 2 cents, so that way people know I'll vote why I voted that way. So.
Okay, very well. Anybody else have anything to say? All right, I need a motion in a second, or we're gonna move on. And we can revisit this another day.
Well, let's have a vote, I'll make a motion. Let's see where it goes.
I'll second my own motion. Motion on the floor to appoint David Hamilton to the Tifa board. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
Why wasn't there a roll call vote?
Because only 2 of you guys said. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk? That's fine.
Councilperson Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
No.
Pratt,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
Councilperson Briner,
No.
Deer,
Yes.
and Morrissey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Approved.
Just want it on the record.
No problem. Thank you, Katie. We'll move on to general public comment. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium, and you can speak on anything you like at this time. Podium's now open.
I'd like to just say that I appreciate Mr. Stuchel showing his stripes today, and he has absolutely no room to say anybody is unprofessional.
Thank you, Lance. Any more public comment?
I think it's awful that somebody is calling the Hope House something horrible. These people, it's by the grace of God, it's just any of us that hasn't gotten into that. A few wrong things and you're in that same freaking boat, homeless or on drugs. These people need a leg up. Look at this world these days. It's heartless to say anything negative about those people. I see them every single day out in front of my house. I've never had any problems. You say hi to them, they're a human being. I just am, it's shameful what has happened. Those poor people that are trying to help themselves, and Lance is trying to help them. It's just horrible. Now, getting back to the Mary Wolfram and the Tifa appointment. I've been disheartened at the Tifa. Kiefer over there, and she was integral part of that, is got broken windows. The fence has holes in it. People can climb through it and get there. There's scaffolding up there. Nothing has been done since before Thanksgiving. The windows are wide open. It's a boondoggle and crazy. CL Enterprises bought the same sort of building in LaSalle, Indiana, or Illinois in 2002. They discussed that building that hasn't had anything happen. Finally, the council have about had it with them. They're pulling out of all sorts of other things. I don't think the Kiefer's ever gonna get done. I hope I'm proven wrong, but you build it and they will come is just a movie. I can't believe people are putting their faith in this company. So I, for one, glad Mary Wolfram's not gonna be reappointed.
Thank you, Penny. Any more public comment?
I'd just like to say thank you for disagreeing well. And thank you all for disagreeing well. God forbid we all stand up here and nod to whatever the mayor has to say. We need to do this and do it well. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any more public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to change the atmosphere in here just for a minute.
Thank you, Chief.
It's stale. I just want to give a little acknowledgement. Officer Cody Kraxenberg was honored at the Red Wings game last Wednesday night for his military service, with pictures on the Jumbotron, and also that he's currently in service with the Hillsdale City Police Department with pictures of him in the city uniform and Hillsdale City Police vehicles. So that was great for him, that acknowledgement, and a little bit of credit and pictures there at the game for the police department in the city of Hillsdale also. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you, Chief. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the podium and move into the city manager's report. David.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things I want to mention to address Councilman Beer's question about the mileage we were looking at. Jake was gracious enough to send that to me. Uran is about 1/3 of a mile, and then Morey, Linwood, Hall area is about 0.8, so about a little over 3/4 of a mile. So all in all, this year we will have a mile 10, 12 worth of work. That being said, also, as was mentioned, on the road reconstruction work, as we've have the engineers working on the Westwood project, that is a project, as we talked about different funding sources, that it's large enough that we'll also need to look at actually issuing bonds for that project. And so this would be a 23 project, the Westwood project. So we would probably see the special assessment district information come to the council late summer, early fall. That way we can move forward with potential bonding of that work, which is estimated to be somewhere in the neighborhoods of about $4.5 million, the scope of that particular project. So just another example of using different tools in the toolbox to accomplish road work in the city. Also want to thank Jake and the DPS guys for their work during this snow event. They worked pretty hard on getting the roads clear, and with the cold weather, it kind of prevented some of the salt from working, of course, but they worked hard at making the city passable and getting things moving. So do want to thank them for that. On the industrial park land sales that we've talked about, just want to update you on that. So we finalized the actual negotiating items that the developer and the city had to hash out in order to consummate the agreement. We're waiting just for the signed addendum from the actual purchaser. On that particular the larger tract of land. We're also working with the second purchaser, to, get him through his requirements, on subdivision, Mr. Stoll, so that can move forward as well. So between the two of them, you know, we are looking at about $900,000 in land sales between those two purchasers, which are now under contract. And hopefully, I believe we're looking at sometime in March on the bigger one, and then the other one will be dependent on rezoning and planning of the subdivision, which will go to zoning and planning board. Today I was elected the chairman of the Michigan South Central Power Agency.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, congratulations, Dave.
Thanks.
Wow, that's awesome.
But yes, thank you.
More money?
Yeah. But we have two longtime agency members that are retiring from their cities. Tom Tarkowicz, which is the city manager of Marshall, is retiring after about 30 years of public service. And he was a chairman, so I'm replacing Tom, and he is actually retiring from Marshall later this month. And then Jeff Budd from Coldwater is retiring from Coldwater after 22 years as city manager and VP director. So we've got some new members coming to the board, which consist of Coldwater, Marshall, Union City, Clinton, and the city of Hillsdale. So we got a number of projects coming up in the electric side, which are, will probably reach council level at some point here later this year. So just wanted to let the council know that I will be chair of that board for at least the foreseeable future. And then just lastly, to mention the Friends of the Dawn Theater's fundraiser, that is February 19th from 6 to 9. If anyone is interested, they can reach out to my office, and I'll be happy to get them in contact with the Friends to get their ticket.
They've sold 100 tickets.
Yeah, they've already sold over 100 tickets. And there is a cost to this, as it is a fundraiser, it's $50 a ticket, but there will be a free event subsequently after this. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take.
I'm really proud of you, Dave.
Well, thank you.
That is cool. I remember just a couple years ago, we were like the outcasts on the board,
Yes.
troublemakers, so look at that. Proud of you, bud. Congratulations.
Just a shout out to the street department for the snow plowing you guys did, especially with your staff. I mean, you guys did a hell of a job. I mean, it's just, when I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, fortunately, usually don't have to go to work at that time, but you guys are out there and it's nice. But it is very noticeable. I will say this, and I'm not picking on the county, but going to Coldwater, when you hit the line there, right where, ConAgra is, you can tell the difference when you're leaving Hillsdale County, you're going into Branch. Because their trucks are out there all night long, and that road, it's amazing difference the road is. I'm not picking on Hillsdale, but it's noticeable. I just wish we could do something different, because it's very noticeable when you're on that road.
For what it's worth, just the opposite. I go the other way. It's good in Hillsdale County until I hit Jackson.
Oh, that's important.
Interesting.
And Branch County does take care of the roads. I would, someday maybe we'll get lucky and they'll be able to do some more on the roads, because at 4 o'clock in the morning, it can be a white knuckler till you get to the Branch County line. And it gets scary at times. But I only got 132 more days and that won't be a problem. I'm retired.
Are you joking? You're
No,
retired?
I'm retiring in 132 days.
Well, congratulations, Bruce.
Who's counting?
I've done it twice, it doesn't mean you get to quit doing stuff.
No, you don't quit doing stuff, but you don't go in there and watch hogs getting slaughtered. So,
I don't know how you do it, bud. Councilman? Councilman Breimer.
As far as Dave, as far as the land sale, did you say there was an addendum coming from the buyer on the large one?
Right, as part of the purchase agreement, there were a few items that needed to be addressed to basically fully consummate the agreement.
Alright, well,
Any more questions for Dave? Council comment? Councilman Stuchel?
Well, first I'd like to try to remove some of the complete disgust that Ms. Swan has, because, you know, substance abuse affects every family. I mean, I have a family member who's had strong, you know, she's been stuck for a long time. So it's not a matter of do we give these people help? Yes, we give these people help in any way we can, but it's about location where we do that. That's my argument. The other thing I'd like to thank this council, one thing good about this council is we do have healthy debates, and we disagree, and we make known our points of view. And I think that's what makes this council so strong, I really do. And finally, I wish Mr. Hamilton all the best luck in his new properties downtown.
Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. And you're right about substance abuse. I
Yes.
have a number of family members that,
It's terrible. Nobody wants that.
I have always had a rough go at it. It's a shame because a couple of them, I got a cousin that's going back to prison in Indiana, and smartest guy in the world. I swear, so much more capable than I am, so much smarter than I am, but just can't get that monkey off his back. You know?
Well, that's one thing we can say about this council, though, we're not bobbleheads.
You got that right.
That's one thing.
Councilman Briner?
Raise your hand, Bruce.
I'm sorry.
Twice you've done that to me tonight. We're gonna duke it out outside.
All right.
No, I just wanna say, you know, every vote that I, you know, don't agree or agree with, it's made from the heart. I'm obviously trying to look out for what's best for Hillsdale. I think Dave will do a wonderful job on Tifa, and look forward to what he brings. And also, hopefully, Mary can put differences aside and maybe, you know, at some point in time, offer her knowledge to Tifa, in a different way, or maybe even serve on the airport committee, because I know we're looking at other arenas, you know, to expand on in the city. So, you know, I don't think we should just say, hey, we don't want you to be a part of the city, because I think she's an asset, to us. You know, she might not get along with everybody, might butt heads, but we all do. But, you know, let's just do it respectfully, and with kind hearts. And then also too, just wanna make it known publicly, because I have not made it publicly, that I will not be rerunning for council, this year. So I'm gonna be looking at some different avenues as far as, maybe a school board, so, in the future. Just wanna make that publicly, so that gives people the opportunity, to get out there, so.
Well, thank you, Councilman Briner. I mean, no matter how things unfold this next year, you will be missed.
Yeah, I won't interrupt you.
I'm gonna take a few years off and spend it some other ways, and then look at maybe potentially filling that back up with the school board position.
Any more council comment?
Yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about the rules pertaining to appointments to the various commissions and boards, in terms of, if a term is over, I've always assumed that people left the board unless they were reappointed. And now I understand that at least with TIFA, it can be extended. And so if our city attorney could address that, I'd like to know a little bit more about it.
It depends on what the board or committee would be, and it depends on whether or not it's under a state statute, or whether it's something that's created as a matter of part of the city government structure. For example, TIFA, your planning commission, most of those types of boards in which there's a statute that relates to the creation of the entity, they actually will have provisions in them that say that a member serves through their term and until their successor is appointed. So, and that's what the mayor was referring to with respect to Ms. Wolfram. Your term might be up, but you remain a member of the board until such time as your successor is appointed. One of the reasons they do that typically is because on a lot of those types of organizations in some municipalities, it's difficult to find somebody who wants to serve on them. And if you have a situation where you have a couple of people whose terms might have expired, but you haven't been able to find somebody to fill that spot, you may not be able to have a board that acts, because they may not be able to have a quorum, for example.
Good. It sounds though we don't have that problem with TIFA anymore.
We do I would really point out so many of our property owners are very young and vital, like that is so, and I don't know if you guys know, but I took over, I took a job with Gelzer's Furniture, so, I'm now working for Gelzer's Corporation again, and Drew's
I have to go buy a
got the
license.
hardware store, and Grant's getting ready for his, I don't know, retirement year. But Grant will never retire, I'm sure, in actuality, since I don't know what else he'd do, but.
You're right next door to me.
I am, yep, I will be at the furniture store moving forward, and, they've got some really exciting stuff coming up for Gelzer's, for the Gelzer's Corporation, the Gelzer's Family Corporation, which I'm not a Gelzer, but I have worked for them 3 times in the past, and this is, now I'm back, and I think I'll stay this time, since those were delivery jobs, and, but the organization as a whole has some really exciting stuff coming up in the future, and some young leadership, so, I think Gelzer's presence downtown, in the next 4 or 5 years, you'll see it really grow and expand, and
Now, I must say that I bought a reclining chair from Gelzer's last year, and I'm very satisfied.
we have the best furniture. It's all American made, no lazy boys or anything like that. Warranties on everything, 100% American made. It's real furniture. You pay for it though.
Yeah,
It's real furniture.
That's true.
Yes, you do.
Councilman Beard?
Actually, my sister Terry and my brother Kevin just bought a recliner for my dad.
I know. I just saw your sister in there. So
He's got that push button going, right?
And it's also supporting the local business.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we do. I'm sorry, I buy from Kelly's too, though.
oh, well, Kelly's is, you know.
I mean, I've known Bob for umpteen years, 30 years, so I buy from both. I do. But as long as you're keeping it in the county, you're keeping the money in the county, that's important too.
No, Gelzer's is. I left Walmart and went to Gelzer's is a Hillsdale institution.
Oh,
It's an institution, and I'm very, very happy to be there. Very happy to be a part of the Gelzer's extended family. So good stuff.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Reiner, seconded by Councilman Beer. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned.